Anakin, Ahsoka, and Ayla Secura are wounded and stranded without help. We watched Jedi Crash for our Clone Wars Chronological Rewatch, so now it's time to break it all down.
Anakin is wounded on a daring mission to rescue Ayla Secura from her failing cruiser. They escape in a frigate, but its damaged hyperdrive engages.
I just want to point out that all of this happens in the atmosphere of a planet, and entering light speed is supposed to be interrupted by gravity wells, but since the hyperdrive was shot, I'm guessing the safety measures were disengaged.
Okay, nerd. As the ship comes out of hyperspace, they barely dodge a star and crash land on a nearby planet. Anakin needs medical aid, and although she doesn't like it, Ahsoka joins Ayla, Bligh, and a handful of clones to search for help. Rex is left to guard her master. They find Lurman villagers who have settled on the world to avoid the Clone Wars. The village elder lectures the Jedi on their role in the war, but begrudgingly offers to help treat Anakin.
The theme of the episode is greed and fear of loss are the roots that lead to the tree of evil. So, yeah, that's a long one. But it's basically the thesis of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, that's Anakin's story.
Yeah, or maybe it's the thesis of Revenge of the Sith first and foremost, because, I mean, he has lost so much, including his mother, and, I mean, we learn throughout the Clone Wars he loses his Padawan in a sense. He is terrified to lose Padme, and is willing to do anything to keep her, including killing children.
Yeah, and we kind of see Ahsoka go through this in this episode.
Right. This is like, I guess, a child version of Revenge of the Sith, maybe for kids who aren't ready to see someone be dismembered and burned alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ahsoka is kind of the analog of Anakin at this point.
Yeah. So he's injured and she doesn't want to leave him, but she's with Aayla Secura and she's like, we have to go find help and you have to come with me.
You pointed out that the past few episodes, Ahsoka's kind of just like making the rounds with all the other Jedi.
Yeah, that's why she is such a great Jedi, in my opinion, and so well-rounded. She's been taught personally by like all the Jedi in these different episodes of the Clone Wars.
How many different personal adventures can you go on with so many different legendary Jedi?
Yeah.
But yeah, she is the one that has to learn to let go a little bit. And it's not a huge part of the episode, I would say. I mean, she accepts that fairly quickly, but she, I guess, learns more from Ayla while they're on their journey. She says something like, we have to be compassionate for all life, but you can't just focus on one person. And basically saying, don't sacrifice 1,000 lives to save just one. Which, again, Anakin is willing to do that in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. After much toil and anger have kind of taken him over.
Yeah. But I would say that this is also a message about the Lurmans. And they definitely are, I mean, not to get into next week's episode, but they're going to deal with this a little more. But I think that they are afraid of taking a part in this conflict. And I don't want to say that the Elder is completely wrong. I think it's good that he wants to strive for peaceful negotiations, but it's naive to think that that's going to work all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the episode with the Toydarian King, they kind of say the same thing. Like, they don't want any part of it, but then in close quarters later on, he's like, okay, I can't just ignore your plea for help. Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that until right now, but you're exactly right that it's the same basic argument. This one, I think, is more a fear-driven decision on the Lurman's part. I mean, and to be fair, they're tiny. They're not like, they don't look like great warriors or anything, but...
And they don't want their planet destroyed, obviously. So, I mean, it makes sense for them to not want to get involved, but to turn a blind eye to the entire issue of the Clone Wars is almost worse.
It's the same kind of lesson that Finn learns in The Last Jedi. DJ tells him the only choice is to not join, but he basically sees that doing nothing is basically taking the side of evil.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know, kids in elementary school and middle school. If you see a kid getting bullied and you just turn a blind eye and don't tell anyone about it or help him, you know, that's worse than if you were, I don't know, to be a tattletale and tell an adult and get help for that kid that's being bullied.
Yeah, I agree. Before closing out, let's go over some of the random trivia from the episode. This is Bligh's first chronological appearance. You might recognize him as one of the clones that executes Ayla on Felucia in Revenge of the Sith.
The display screen warning of the Republic ship's collision with the star reads Impact in Arabesh.
The ventilator Anakin uses while he's recovering uses the same sound effect as Darth Vader's breath mask.
The Arabesh on Anakin's status screen reads Stand by for prognosis.
Quinlan Vos is referenced but not by name when Ayla discusses her former master. You can also find those facts on StarWars.com's episode guides, and they're currently doing a chronological rewatch on their website as well if you want to check that out. I'll put a link in the description of all the episodes listed out chronologically, but that's it for today. Next week we'll cover Season 1, Episode 14, Defenders of Peace, if you want to watch along. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel,
follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook,
and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.